Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's edition of Applied Neolife, otherwise called Team Training Tuesday. These sessions were thought about and I decided to start them just to unpack what we have in our family called Neolife and to make it understandable and applicable to the conditions we find day to day. But obviously, our opportunity is for everybody. These products are required by all of us. So today's topic is nutrition in ADHD and autism. Broad topic. And I can't profess to know everything about it, but yeah, I've just read around it. My name is Ese Zanambasi. By training, I'm a medical doctor. I've been doing that for about 4 decades as a medical doctor. But at the beginning of 2020, I chose to focus even more on my passion. It's always been my passion, nutrition, but now I'm totally focused on it and other things associated with nutrition. I'm married. I've got 3 adult children. And now we are going to get started with this topic. I would like to ask all of you who have invited guests to explain that this is actually for their benefit, to understand a little bit more, to get more insight into what we do in Neolife. All right, so nutrition, very important. What Neolife offers to impact the lives of children with special needs, and we are a family on a mission to make the world healthier and happier. Many of you might know that last Wednesday, I believe it would be, was World Autism Day. And that's why I decided to stay within our theme for this month, which is the family, the health of the family. Last week, we discussed the health of the mother or women generally. And today it's children, but focusing on this topic, autism and ADHD. And yes, we are going to ask, what are we supposed to feed our children? Right. Let's just see something. It's not moving as it should be. Right. So autistic spectrum disorder is broad. It's a spectrum, which means that there are several facets, and you can't say one child is like the next one. It can never happen, okay? So there are many aspects to it, and I will also start by talking about attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder called ADHD. And just so that you remember, I've actually put up an attention deficit and hyperactive slide. This is just as a memory jogger. But yes, difficulty paying attention or controlling behavior is one of the aspects of it. Hyperactivity, attention deficit, impulsivity, and it has been in the mainstream conversation, for many years, to the point where I'm wondering whether actually it is even a condition that should be treated, or is it part of the growing process? Well, we'll talk about that. Hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end to discuss. ADHD is said to affect 5 to 10% of children, depending on where the estimates are made. Lots to discuss. So why we should be concerned is because of the ability to acquire skills. Those are significantly affected, such as numerical skills, human perception, in other words, relationships, and coordination, and reasoning. School, if a child is put in a school full of other children, that can be a source of trauma to that child, an adverse childhood event. So we have to be very careful when we are making decisions, and yet they might be room to make such dramatic decisions, drastic decisions. But this presentation is to say, what else can we do? And that's what we want to discuss. Okay, contributing factors. It might be sensitivity to various chemicals, food sensitivities, environments with molds, fungal spores, and other toxic substances. And then there might be a genetic component, probably. Now, as regards chemicals, more and more scientists are saying fluoride that we are exposed to is actually quite damaging to hydrogen bonds that hold DNA together, which can lead to rapid cellular aging. And the result is that the repair enzymes are made to overwork and eventually they become ineffective. So memory might be affected, and it is also known that most toxic effects are in populations with the greatest degree of malnutrition. Now, when we say that, sometimes we are tempted to think that those are those people who are in very rural areas who are perhaps so malnourished because they don't have, right? That's not always the case, because we are seeing more and more malnutrition even in urbanized people, people who are quite affluent. In fact, I suspect that's where the greatest extent or incidence of malnutrition is. So I've been tempted to ask this question: is ADHD overdiagnosed? We'll discuss it. And the reason I've asked that question is that it is made on evaluations by interviewing parents and teachers, from anecdotal observation, and from tests, academic and cognitive assessments. So my concern, as far as ADHD is concerned, is that diagnosis may therefore be made hastily and with incomplete information, with a view to medicate it. So I want us to think of other modalities of managing or treating or even making the situation better, mitigating those symptoms that we pointed out. So some risks that we might know about are preterm birth, low birth weight, exposure to toxins during pregnancy, such as lead or smoking or alcohol, birth trauma. So with that, we can conclude that pollutants and poor diets that poison and fail to properly nourish the nerve system, the nervous system, as the brain and the nervous system are developing, may be implicated. All right. So the overall advice is that we should limit or try to eliminate from children's environments toxins such as pesticides, fluoride, heavy metals, refined sugar. Now that one is a big one. Okay, refined sugar products. The reason being that those cause wild fluctuations in blood sugar and also increase the susceptibility, in other words, the vulnerability of nerve tissue to damage from toxic exposures. And then we have things called excitotoxins, such as monosodium glutamate that is added to foods, and food colorants. Those are actually very excitatory to nerve tissue and might result in the behaviors that we've talked about. And then another one that is actually a pet topic of mine is excessive exposure to electromagnetic fields, such as what we are all sitting under now. And so we have to find ways of mitigating that. But when it comes to children, all right, excessive exposure is actually excitotoxic to their brain tissue. And then remember, children do grow up, they become adults, and we have adult ADHD, which manifests as anxiety or mood disorders. They might even have autism spectrum disorder manifestations. They may develop substance abuse, or it might be confused with that. And then very common sleep disorders. And a lot of people are on medication to get some sleep. Right now, let's look at autism spectrum disorder. We've been talking about ADHD. Now let's talk about autism. This is a developmental disorder that impairs the ability to communicate and to interact normally. And it's a spectrum, so it can be very few symptoms and signs, or it can be high end. So yes, this is the month, and on the 2nd was the date when we create awareness. So the purpose is to learn and to help each other to learn and to support each other through all this, because several parents and several children are affected. We know that there's a combination of genetic and non-genetic influences. The non-genetic ones are what we call epigenetic influences. Factors that have been associated with increased risk of autism include pregnancy and birth complications, such as extreme prematurity, multiple pregnancies, and then pregnancies that are spaced less than 1 year apart. In other words, having another pregnancy immediately. And then advanced parental age has been implicated. But again, the risk is lower when there is adequate prenatal preparation to optimize nutrition status. So we keep coming back to the factor of nutrition. Okay, so those are some of the symptoms: hyperactivity, ignoring danger, rejecting cuddles. They tend not to want to be touched. They don't tolerate sound very much. They tend to be depressed. They tend to have hysterical or hysterics and can be dubbed badly behaved, when in fact it might be a manifestation of autism. The main features, however, are these: challenges with social communication, restricted repetitive behaviors, symptoms and signs that begin early in childhood and the child grows, and they may become either fewer and less because of training, behavioral management, or may become even more pronounced. And then symptoms and signs may persist and interfere with the activities of daily living. So up to now, the emphasis has always been early intervention, and that is encouraged all the time. In other words, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. But what we are now proving, and I'm going to show you the slides, are the role of nutrition. And that's what this presentation is actually wanting to highlight. Autistic individuals do not appear different from other children, except if they manifest overt malnutrition, which is quite possible to manifest because they're very, very picky eaters. Now, this is just a reminder, it's important to be consistent in life generally, but particularly so in ADHD and autism spectrum disorder, because you will never change your life until you change something you do daily. That goes even for what we are doing in this family. The secret of success is found in our daily routine that we agree with. So now let's turn our attention to nutrition. We've pointed out that ADHD and autistic children are very picky. So I want to draw your attention to somebody who has done a lot of work on this, and she has very, very recently, as in a couple of weeks ago maybe, published another book. The first one that I heard about was Nourishing Hope for Autism. And now in March, she's published another one called The Personalized Autism Nutrition Plan. Her name is Julie Matthews. I'm in the process of ordering her new book. I would love to see what is in it. So, from such researchers, we learn things like what is in our diet that can exacerbate autism or even ADHD. So I'm going to talk a little bit about oxalates. Oxalic acid is found naturally in plant foods. Some foods have higher levels than others. So the first lot of foods here are high oxalate foods. They include things like spinach, almonds, potatoes, tomatoes, wheat flour products, beets, some types of beans, and some berries. And now those are the kinds of foods we eat regularly. But for somebody who has vulnerability of the nervous system to become excited, they might not be a very good idea. Now, I don't know what we do about that. But anyway, let's carry on. And then low oxalate foods. That is what we need to do to know the difference between high oxalate and low oxalate foods. Include things like pumpkin, sunflower seeds, broccoli, sweet potatoes, avocado, kale. Very interesting. But what they say is a potential for pathology from oxalates in autism. A study that was done revealed what we call too much oxalates in urine, hyperoxaluria in autism. And oxalates are known to affect mitochondria. They actually lead to oxidative stress. They cause stress to the mitochondria, which can manifest as inflammation and even as seizures in autism. And then other factors that are associated with this, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, are disrupted gut microbiome. The normal bacteria that lives in our gut is disrupted because of dietary factors, leading to a leaky gut, leading to deficiencies of nutrients. So that is something just to think about, to know about. And the main concern regarding oxalates is that they behave as anti-nutrients. Those of you who have listened to other presentations, we once did one on anti-nutrients as a cause of nutritional deficiencies. So they might bind calcium, magnesium, manganese, and other minerals, causing challenges of deficiencies. And oxalates may also lead to the formation of kidney stones. So this is just for us to know. But now, recent research validates all these observations. It says that about 90% of children with autism have one or more underlying physiological issues. This is the more recent research, and it just agrees with earlier research that there is gastrointestinal dysfunction, there is oxidative stress, there is mitochondrial impairment. That leads us to believe that a nutritional intervention can make a significant difference in all of these areas, so that instead of throwing our arms up and saying, oh, well, let's just medicate this child, we need to become more intentional about nutritional interventions. So this is a picture to show the gut and how a healthy gut can be damaged by all sorts of things that come into the gut, causing it to become unhealthy and leaky by breaking the tight junctions that hold the cells together. Things like medications or the presence of very low stomach acid from overuse of antacids, which is a very common practice. Okay, so I just want us to always be aware that the gut, particularly in autistic and attention deficit and hyperactive children, has to be remembered when we are looking after that child. So, areas for targeted solutions in autism specifically, you can say both autism and ADHD, gastrointestinal function and the microbiome and its function. It has been shown that 70% of children with autism experience gastrointestinal disturbances, resulting through that leaky gut formation, resulting in increased overall inflammation in the system. And that would also affect the nerve cells in the brain and other areas of the body. Okay, so neurological dysfunction. And then another targeted area should be with the mitochondria, because there is mitochondrial dysfunction. 3 or 4 weeks ago, we talked at length about mitochondria, and I'm so glad that we belong to a family which teaches us such details rather than generalities. We learn about the role of mitochondria, where the energy is actually made in each cell. Okay, and there are billions of them. So mitochondrial dysfunction, up to 50% of individuals with autism demonstrate biomarkers of compromised mitochondrial function. That is quite serious. And then neuroinflammation, that simply means inflammation of the nervous system. The role of chronic inflammation of the nervous system in autism continues to become more and more evident. And that should actually be giving us clues as to what we are supposed to be doing about it. So nutrition-based approaches are therefore important. This is a picture of a mitochondrion, one, but as an example, one cell of the heart muscle, which is very, very hardworking, can have over 5,000 of these little energy-producing units called mitochondria. So they're very, very important, and we have to learn to look after them. Now, solutions to be aware of. How specific foods can support a healthy gut and reduce inflammation. Alternatively, if you don't know about that and you carry on with inflammatory foods or inflammation-causing foods, then it's very much like adding fuel to a fire. Then nutrients that enhance mitochondrial function and cellular energy, it would be good to know about. And anti-inflammatory food strategies to support specifically the brain. So these are the desired goals. This is what we are wanting to see happen. Please don't write on the chart. All right. Improved focus and attention. That is goal number 1. Better digestive health. reduced anxiety and irritability. That's a big one, actually. Because in modern life where there's so much stress from other reasons, we need to get techniques of how to reduce anxiety and irritability. And then enhanced communication skills. It takes intention to teach our children to communicate properly. It takes intention even for adults to communicate properly. And then more stable energy levels. So I hope we can formulate solutions and give suggestions. But the first line of management must be nutrition and a clean environment. I want to stress that it is so tempting to default to medicating because there's something that will work quickly and then we go for it. But it has been shown in ADHD, for example, that if children are medicated, then what happens is that those children are more likely to later on become addicted to substances. Right. I don't know who it is that is writing on my board, but please stop it. Okay. As a family on a mission to make the world a healthier and happier place for children with ADHD and autism spectrum disorder, I believe we have a huge opportunity to share with many, many families because many families are affected. Society continues to prioritize treatment of symptoms. Okay, I've introduced myself as being in the medical profession or having been in the medical profession for a long time. And yes, that is indeed true. But our core message is that we must work on the fundamentals first, which are nutrition and a clean environment. Each child is unique and cannot be treated as every other child. I think that would be a big mistake. However, each child has basic needs for nutrition and a non-toxic environment. So with that in our minds, I want us to turn to what this family has. And I like to ask this question and we'll explain why we actually trust what this family has to offer. This is the key reason that we trust it. Let me just do this. Those marks are irritating. All right. So we have a scientific advisory board whose role is to research and develop everything that we have. And so these are the scientists that we have chosen to trust. And Neolife has a board which not every company has, okay? This is what sets Neolife apart. And they decided that their ethic was to base everything in nature and to back it up by science because they're all very knowledgeable and have researched widely and in depth in their fields. So what they have presented to us is cellular nutrition at a cellular level. Basically, because the belief is that we need to feed ourselves at that level. And so this product, you will hear more and more about it, even for children, very important. It allows nutrients into the cell and it allows the cell to detoxify, to allow waste out. So how NutriNN works is that if the cells are unhealthy, the nutrients can't get in and waste cannot get out. So by supplying TreeNN, that is the first thing that one notices that, oh my word, I didn't realize I could generate so much energy. Why? Because the nutrients are now going right into the cells and going into the mitochondria. So this was a study that was actually done at Texas A&M University, and it proved that there was improved nutrient utilization efficiency with TreeNN. Now, let's just apply it to what we are talking about, autism and ADHD. If the mother or the mother's mother before her and the father were unfortunately didn't have access to TreeNN, then the growing baby within them would not get all the nutrients to develop the nerves and the nervous system and the brain as it should have. So ratio of growth and development, here it shows you without TreeNN, it is much lower than with TreeNN. And we're talking very serious stuff here. So when we are advising families, we need to start with that, so that the solution to the whole brain gap of TreeNN or the grain concentrates, and just for the guests, how this gap came to be was at the turn of the century when industrialization began. They had to process the oily parts of the cells out, or rather of grain, out of the grain, and discarded that, and then gave us the starchy part. They even started polishing the grain so that under the fiber, the vitamins and minerals were also lost. So we end up getting very, very poor nutrition in modern day society. So what this company did a long time ago, following studies, was to encapsulate those grain oils. So TreeNN means 3 in 1. There is wheat germ oil, there's rice bran oil, and there's soy oil. Everything is non-genetically modified. Everything is grown organically. So it is safe for us to take, all right? And essential fatty acids, also known as phytolipids and sterols, from whole grain are so important in the function of our cells, as well as the hormones. And we need to ensure from an early age that hormones function well. All this was developed for a hospital research study, and our company is the only company that offers this combination to promote cellular energy and efficiency. So we're very, very happy to always promote that product first, because you won't get it anywhere else. And then the solution to omega-3 gap, we have that as well, because we have the first and only complete omega-3 supplement. What I mean by complete is it has all 8 components of a complete omega-3, all of the 8. Right, it's the family of 8 omega-3s. It is also tested for over 200 different contaminants, and Neolife has a zero tolerance philosophy. And this product is proven in clinical trials to reduce the inflammatory index by a whopping 68%. And so with consistent use, I've used that word consistency already, with consistent use, that can be brought down, inflammation can be brought down. And we've talked about neuroinflammation or inflammation of the nerve cells, and one of the underlying factors or the causative factors for ADHD and autism. Very important. So just to illustrate inflammation on your cell, an unhealthy cell has low omega-3, and so it's almost always on fire, all right? There's increased inflammation, and that's what inflammation is all about. Persistent chronic inflammation is the #1 enemy of our body. But if the cell can be provided with high amounts of omega-3 in the diet, inflammation is decreased. Unfortunately, in today's society, the kinds of oils we use in our diet are highly inflammatory. And then fruits and vegetables, there is a huge gap there. And we have a product called carotenoid complex. This is an exciting product. It's one of the products that really convinced me to to come to this family. It has been shown by researchers to increase the body's immune capacity by 37% in 20 days. And all these studies have been published in peer-reviewed journals, and it was also presented at the New York Academy of Sciences. So it is a unique product indeed, and we are very, very proud of it. More so, proud to have access to it. So all you need to do is to use it yourself. So your cells need protection, again in a schema. An unprotected cell will take over 10,000 hits with free radicals daily until it might even just come up and die, all right? And that's because of low fruits and vegetables in the diet. But to protect it, you need high fruits and vegetables because free radical damage is the #1 enemy that speeds up aging of our cells. So can you see that by comprehensively approaching nutrition and covering all those bases, including that gap in micronutrients, right? You can bring down challenges that occur. So I'm going to just whiz through these products. We have Liquivite, which has TreaNN. We have VitaSquares, which has TreaNN. Liquivite also has carotenoid. We have VitaGuard, which has carotenoid and flavonoid. We are talking about children today. We have a very good vitamin C. And then we have, as part of the core nutrition, all the 22 amino acids that are required. But today, I just want to focus on that challenge of wild swings in blood sugar. Wild blood sugar fluctuations cause nerve cells and the brain to become more vulnerable and susceptible, more sensitive to toxins. So it is super important to ensure that in this spectrum, we supply what is needed to control the blood sugar in what we call the glycemic control zone, so that those wild swings will not affect the blood, the cells as much, okay? So yes, omega-3 can be paired with all those things, but I'm bringing it up again because that is what we want to do to bring down inflammation. There are other important vitamins. You can consider vitamin B, which you will find in VitaSquares for the children, but for older children, you can give them more supplements as well. We have important minerals. We have vitamin A and D. I show this because it is a very good product, particularly for people who are starting out and might say, no, my budget is rather low. You can use this product very successfully. Now, a lot has been spoken about the mitochondria. You may know about this product called coenzyme Q10. Neolife took its time to research and develop it very well to show, before it presented it to us, so that when they did present it to us, this product actually works. And what it does is it is a mitochondrial energy complex. So together with TreaNN helps the nutrients to enter the cells themselves, but this one will feed the mitochondria where the energy is made. So it will support heart health and cellular energy. Exactly what I said earlier. Right, so that is the nutrition. Let's quickly turn our attention before we start the discussion. You can control your environment by the choices you make. We have cleaning products that are non-toxic, 100% biodegradable. They're very versatile. They're sold to us as concentrates. You mix them up yourself and they work. They totally work and they won't poison anybody in the home. And similarly with the washing powder, by reducing toxic chemicals in the home, which should be number one priority to bring down inflammation for the children affected by autism. So we don't use bleaches that have chemicals such as chlorine, because that is very, very inflammatory. We use oxygen bleach. So yes, let us feed ourselves properly. Your mind will always believe everything you tell it. Feed it hope, feed it truth, feed it love, and just do whatever it takes to make your home as free of toxins, and out of that you will be able to afford to use more and more of the supplements that we have indicated. And these are supplements, ladies and gentlemen. They might substitute for an autistic or an ADHD child, because something like a shake is a complete meal. But yes, I think we are done. Thank you. Let us have a short time for discussion. We have more than 15 minutes. Thanks.